Let's keep this cleric love train going by talking about the feats that are best for a cleric. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner, and welcome back to the RPG Daily, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. And today, like I said, it's more clerics, but this time we're talking about the 5 best cleric feats that I think clerics could use. When I play Dungeons & Dragons, I personally prefer the feats over ability score improvements. I do like ability score improvements, don't get me wrong, it's fun to boost your scores up to 20 and be tough, but the feats to me offer a little more variety and give your character a little more utility in various aspects, and that's why I enjoy them so much, and that's why I make videos and I talk about them. This one, we're talking about the cleric feats. Understanding that every divine domain is a little different and has a different specialization, it's kind of hard to pick a perfect feat for each cleric divine domain. There's only so many feats we've got. But I picked mine that, yes, I've mentioned them in the divine domain videos, so I picked my favorites, and this is them. As always, let me know in the comments below what feats you think fit best for a cleric, and ones you enjoy playing with in the comments below. The number one feat for me for clerics, just in general, I think I would always use this, is the feat called Resilient. How this works is you add a +1 to any ability score you choose, but then you also become proficient in saving throws for that ability, which means when you roll a saving throw in that ability, you get to add your proficiency bonus to the roll. At level 1, this proficiency bonus is 2, so you get to add an extra 2 onto your saving throw rolls, but at higher levels it just keeps increasing, so your chances of success get more and more and more, and that chance of success is just a gift that keeps on giving. With a cleric, if you do this any other way, you're wrong. That's how it is. No, I'm joking there, you can do it however you want, but for me and clerics, I would always put this +1 to my constitution and get that constitution saving throw proficiency, so then at higher levels, I just become an unstoppable concentration spell wielding cleric. The second feat that I would also take is Warcaster. Warcaster gives you a couple bonuses that come into play that I really like and I think can be useful for clerics. The main one being if you are holding a concentration spell, anything that you have to focus on, and you take damage, normally in the game you have to roll the dice to see if you can maintain concentration. This one lets you roll that constitution saving throw. If you remember Resilient, we added it to Constitution. It lets you roll that saving throw with advantage this time. So if you were to take Warcaster and Resilient, not only are you adding more to your roll because it's a proficient saving throw now, but on top of that, you're rolling 2 dice and taking the higher of the 2. So it makes you it just makes you really good at maintaining concentration while taking a beating. The other things that this feat allows you to do is being able to do the somatic component of a spell while holding a weapon and shield. Somatic components are the hand moves. In Dungeons & Dragons, you have verbal, somatic, and material components. Somatic is the only one that doesn't really sound like the thing that that is referring to. I don't see why they didn't just call it verbal, hand signals, and material, but they called it somatic. So those you can do while holding a shield and a weapon, which, if you're a cleric, you're rocking a shield, you're holding your weapon, you gotta be able to cast those spells easier. And holding those and maintaining that armor class from the shield, maintaining the chance to hit something with a weapon, is cherry. Then the last part of the Warcaster feat is if a creature nearby you moves and invokes an opportunity attack. Meaning if they move out of range of you, they try to run away, normally you're able to use your reaction to hit them with your weapon. But Warcaster allows you to instead cast a spell. The stipulations on the spell, though, are you can only target one creature with the spell, so area of effect spells aren't really good for this one. But, for example, Scorching Ray, or Firebolt, or something like that, you could use to hit somebody with your Warcaster feat. And also, the casting time of the spell has to be one action. So you can't double up too much. Or you can't cast... So you can't really cast longer casting time spells as a opportunity attack, for example. The reason this feat is so good, like I mentioned, getting extra bonus to maintaining concentration while you're holding it in a combat situation is priceless for a cleric. especially if it's something like banishment that you have to maintain for a whole minute. That is necessary. But also, a lot of times, in a lot of the domains, they're not meant to be a heavy fighter, damage dealer, hit you with my axe kind of thing. So the spells are often more powerful than their physical melee attacks, and that makes the opportunity attacks that a cleric can perform using spells much more potent, much more deadly. The next feat isn't so much a combat feat, but it's very much a situational awareness kind of feat, and it's called Observant. Now, Observant, right off the bat, you get a +1 to either your wisdom or your intelligence. And if you're a cleric, you're going to put this on your wisdom because you're wise. Clerics are wise, they're not smart. But also, with this, you can then read lips of a creature. If you can see a creature that's talking and you share the same language, even if you don't hear them, you can understand what they're saying. And then on top of that, it gives you +5 to your passive perception and your passive intelligence. On top of that, it gives you a +5 to your passive perception score and your passive investigation score. Now, passive scores really depend on the dungeon master. Some like to use them, some don't. I think that comes largely from people not understanding why they're used and how they're used. I still don't like using them that much. I will on occasion, but when you get players who use this kind of feat, this Observant feat, and then suddenly their passive perception is 40 or something, you can't get anything by them if you're using passive perception. But if they roll for it, they can fail, and that's fine. I think that's why a lot of Dungeon Masters don't really use the passive scores, but if they do, this could help you out by giving you the +5. Getting a bonus to your wisdom is, of course, invaluable, and just being able to read lips and gathering information without being in the middle of a conversation, I think it's a good skill to have. Yes, it is situational. Yes, it is more for intrigue and understanding things and, an information gathering kind of ability, but I like it anyways. Number 4 is again very situational, but it is combat related. If you find yourself in a situation where you're fighting wizards or spellcasters, I would suggest using Mage Slayer to help you do that. Mage Slayer just gives you a lot of bonuses when you're up against spellcasters. The first one being if a spellcaster is within 5 feet of you and they decide to cast a spell, you can then make an opportunity attack against them with your melee weapon. The first one being that if a spellcaster is within 5 feet of you and they cast a spell, you can make a melee weapon attack against them. This is not listed as an opportunity attack, it's just a melee weapon attack. Also, with this kind of ability, if you hit a creature who is maintaining a concentration spell, they have to roll their Constitution saving throw to maintain that with disadvantage. So this is like the opposite of Warcaster. You're hitting someone and it's harder for them to concentrate. And the last part of this feat is if a spellcaster is within 5 feet of you and they cast a spell at you that you have to make a saving throw to avoid, you can make that saving throw with advantage, making you harder to hit. So if they throw that fireball at you and they're right next to you, they're more likely to miss because you got that sweet advantage. I really like this feat because, as they say in the old ancient proverb, the best defense is a good offense. This gives you all the tools to just bring the fight straight to the wizards and the mages and the spellcasters and just hit them hard, hit them fast, and make them feel it, while also keeping yourself alive at close range from blast damage and saving throw attacks. And the last feat for clerics, I kind of like this feat so much that I think everyone should have it. Like, it should just be, all the classes should pick up this feat, and it's called Lucky. In a nutshell, you get to give yourself advantage as you wish throughout the day. Every day you have 3 luck points, and as you decide to use this feat, you actually spend those luck points, but you regenerate them at the end of a long rest. So, how you use this is if you roll a d20 in an attack roll or an ability check or a saving throw and you don't like the result, you can spend your luck point to re-roll that 20. It basically gives you advantage. Not only that though, if you have an enemy who decides to attack you, you can do the same thing. You can spend your luck point to roll a d20, and then you can decide if they will use their attack roll or your attack roll. If you roll lower than they did, you'll likely want to use your attack roll. Especially if you roll your luck and you get like a natural 1, you can basically impose that natural 1 on your enemy. But, of course, there are limited uses. Like I said, you only get 3 luck points a day, that's all, and then you have to wait until the next day to use them again. I like this feat because having a couple advantage or giving disadvantage abilities comes in really handy in a lot of situations, whether you're you know, sneaking through a dungeon, picking a lock, seducing the dragon, or convincing the king that you should that he should adopt you. Those kind of situations could use a good advantage roll. Or if you're getting hit and getting wailed on by a bad guy, you just need a little luck to keep them from killing you. Perhaps you can use it to give them that disadvantage and make it harder for them to hit you. That's why I think I put this on the cleric list, but really, realistically, this should go on all class feat lists. But in my future ones, I will try not to add lucky on there. I'll try, no promises. So that has been the feats in no particular order, even though I did say resilient is probably my favorite one for clerics. I hope you like them. Let me know in the comments below any feats that you like to try for your clerics. And I've been Richard. Thanks for watching.